You, my friend, are about to learn how to be a total badass in Starcraft II. How to make your Starcraft friends scared of how good you are. Now, if that sounds exciting at all, you better keep watching and you better pay attention. But who the hell am I to even be talking about those things? Well, I'm Joyful Rogue, a Twitch TV live streamer. Nice to meet you. In my previous job, I was a life coach focused on peak performance and skill learning. I was teaching people how to be better at skills they were practicing. But even that doesn't matter, because in my other job, I was practicing and preparing to be a Starcraft II professional gamer. And I wasn't just messing around. Let's take a look. Let's take a look what the hell actually happened here. So this is my beginning of Starcraft. This is when I discovered the game. I didn't play since beta or anything. I played a little bit of Warcraft. So when I came in, I got to Silver League and I played for a week, and then Season 1 ended. It was actually in August, the end of the Season 1, and the beginning of the shorter seasons. It wasn't like I was practicing since January here. It was just like a week of gameplay, and then I got to Silver. Season 2? Screw Gold! Screw Platinum! Who cares about that? Mid Diamond, right there in Season 2. Rank 11 of the Diamond, that's when I finished. And then Season 3, got to the Master, right there in 4 to 6 months, don't remember exactly, it was like 5 months of time. I got from Silver to Master, from nothing. I got from 0 to nailing my timings, keeping my money low, never getting supply blocked, microing an army of 4 control groups, Broodlord, Infestor, Lings, Corruptors, and macroing at the same time, and beating Terrans, beating Protosses that were superior in that year's metagame. I did all that in 5 months, and you can do it too. And I'm gonna show you how, because most people are doing stupid shit. I'm gonna tell you how to do the smart shit. And if you're wondering, wait a second, Joyful Rogue, so what happened to your career anyway? Well, after I got to Masters, my hand injury started developing, and I just couldn't keep practicing. It was carpal tunnel and repetitive stress injury both at the same time. It was pretty messed up. And in a couple of years, I ended up not being able to use the computer at all. Until I developed, well, systems that allow me to use the computer without using my hands. You can see those on my live stream, but that's for another time. Basically, I couldn't keep going because of my hand injury. So here's the strategy I used to get to Masters in 5 months. First, have the right attitude. And so many people get this wrong. Second, master the mechanics. And third, master the metagame. First mechanics, then metagame, alright? First mechanics, then metagame. Don't mess this up. Attitude, mechanics, metagame. I will expand on every one of these 3 in the remainder of the video, and you will learn how many people just get this wrong and waste their time. You will learn how you can just visibly see your progress, you can feel yourself getting better, and that rewarding feeling of defeating the players that play just as much as you, that were better than you, but because you did things better, because you practiced in a more efficient way, you can now kick their ass. You will know that feeling, my friend. I promise you that. But the first thing you need to learn is the right attitude. First of all, Baneling came and he killed all my marines, and then the infestors did the fungal growth. Zerg is so OP. I'm gonna slap you in the face if you ever complain about balance and the metagame before you get to Masters. I will slap you in the face, because it's stupid, it's pathetic, and it doesn't get you anywhere. Trust me. It doesn't get you anywhere. You don't get to complain, alright? You don't get to complain. Because I'm gonna sit you down in front of that replay. I'm going to point you to all the things you did wrong in your mechanics. And I'm gonna make you imagine what would the game look like if that 2,000 resources you were floating turned into Marines. I'm gonna make you imagine what would happen if you didn't forget 2 pylons there. I would make you imagine what would happen if you didn't miss those injects and you were able to spend your money and make a bigger army when that attack came. I'm gonna make you imagine those things, and then you will tell me, alright, Joyful Rogue, thanks for slapping me, you son of a bitch, but you're right. If I had a better mechanics, the metagame imbalance wouldn't matter. You don't get to complain about the metagame, because you're not good enough to maximize the potential of what you've been given. It's like saying, I haven't been given the right tools to win, but then you're not using your tools correctly because your mechanics suck. So just slap yourself in the face every time you're complaining about the metagame, and you will be rewarded for doing so. Another thing people get horribly wrong, and so help me God, if you came here because you were hoping I will give you the build order that gets you to Masters, I'm gonna kick you in the neck. And I'm not a violent person, it's just that you deserve it. It's not a victorious strategy that gets you to Masters. You don't get to Masters by tricking everyone into the cheese they've never seen before. You don't get to Masters by build order victories. No, you get to Masters by being goddamn better. By just being so much better than everyone else. Then yeah, they will have a superior strategy, but you're just gonna have so much shit on the board, and you're gonna be macroing your ass off, and you're just barely gonna out-macro them anyway, and they're gonna be so confused when their master strategy will not work against you. That's what it feels like to just be better than someone in a platinum, in a diamond league, where most people rely on just better strategy. And you just come in there with such good mechanics, their strategies just fall apart. It's a beautiful feeling. And I want to give you that feeling. That's why I'm explaining this strategy to you. And once you know this strategy, everything else will just fall into place. You will find the right build orders. It's no problem. You just Google them. It's fine. You really don't need some extra sparkly gimmicks. What you need is the solid skill it takes to execute it. And I will tell you how to get that solid skill. And don't worry, I will not send you to play 100 games against AI. When I say practice, I don't mean boring practice. I don't mean downloading a micro training map and then just spending your days there. No, it's just a waste of time, trust me. It's just a waste of time. Practicing macro in a separated environment doesn't give you nearly as much. Because it's not about just producing things. It's about producing things under pressure that you need to learn. That's why you need to practice your macro in real games. It's not about microing your Zerglings that matters. It's about microing your Zerglings while you're executing a build order, while you are injecting and doing a second prong attack on enemy base. That's what matters, and you will never learn those things from a macro or micro training map or a game against AI. You will learn those things under the pressure of real battles. What you need to do is, under the pressure of the real battles, 1v1 against real opponents, under that pressure, you need to focus on specific objectives, macro-related objectives, mechanically related objectives. And I will explain that later on, but basically, don't waste your time with boring AI practice. No, get right into the games, but get into the right kind of games. Stop your goddamn six-pulling. You need to stop six-pulling, goddammit. I'm not gonna get any more violent, but please just stop six-pulling. You're just ruining the game. Alright, just don't. I know it's fun. Just don't. Don't six-pull and call it practice. Make it your rule that every game should be a macro game. Because macro games teach you so much more than a build order win ever will. They teach you so much more. The full explanation of why macro games are so vastly superior when it comes to making progress than a build order win, the full explanation is in my previous videos of how to be a better gamer, and the and the joyful talk about skill practice. I've made those videos before on YouTube. They will show up somewhere here for you if you're curious about the psychology behind it. But basically, there are two types of skill. The muscle memory skills that you need to have, and the muscle memory is trained by the macro game a little bit more than by a build order win, because there's some more variety and just so much more going on at the same time in the late game. And there are the soft skills, the skills of decision making. Those are also kind of like mechanical skills of not crumbling under pressure. Those are also just the foundations of your Starcraft II playstyle that you need to master. The skills of managing way more things than you think you can handle, of just starting to think faster, starting to manage 3, 4, 5 processes at the same time. Injections, productions, army management, and expansion at the same time. Those are the skills you will not get from just build order wins. So that's why you need to focus on the macro playstyle. So basically the right kind of attitude to have is to stop whining about all the cheap shots your opponent did against you and the imbalance. It's my race is always the weakest. Slap yourself in the face. Man up and focus on macro-oriented practice against strong opponents. So that just like a lump of coal under enormous pressure applied in smart ways, you can turn into a beautiful diamond and then into a real master. With that attitude, your number one priority is mechanics. What do I mean about mechanics? Well, mechanics is microing your units while managing your economy, always spending your money to have less than 1,000 combined resources until you max out, unless you're doing a Mutalisk strategy. And remembering the right habits, internalizing the right habits. You don't need to memorize a build order down to a second. No, what you need to do when you're practicing your mechanics is to have the right kind of things internalized. Never getting supply blocked, always doing the probes and pylons. The probes and the pylons, ladies and gentlemen. Always remembering, Baneling speed as soon as the Baneling nest is done. The Colossus range as soon as you've got the gas, warping in at the right times, those kinds of general timings that you need to nail. Whatever strategy you will be doing in the future, you need to have those things internalized. You need to have an internal clock that tells you exactly when to do those things. Larva injects, another thing like that. You need to have those things internalized. So micro, macro, and the right habits. Those things are your number one priority. And here is why you need to focus on those things before you learn any other strategy. Here's what most people do wrong. They're like, I'm in this platinum league here, and I need to figure out how to beat more platinum players so that I can advance to diamond. So let me just look up on the internet some cool strategies for the current metagame. What is good? And then they learn what is good. They spend all this time learning what's good and applying what's good. They get a little bit of success, and yeah, they advance a little bit, and then what's good becomes bad because the metagame changes, because the next patch came in, and suddenly their strategy just doesn't work anymore. So they wasted so much time learning something that got them a little bit ahead. Whereas if you focus directly on mechanics, you will learn them so much faster than if you focused all that time on strategy. Yeah, you learn a little bit of mechanics just by playing, but if you focus solely on mechanics, you can advance so much faster because you're learning the underlying foundation of every strategy. The foundation without which you will never get to master, without which you will never get there. Every master has that foundation, and every master will crush you, will play you like a fiddle if you don't have those basics. So instead of wasting time learning strategies and then learning the mechanics to be able to execute those strategies, and then once you learn the mechanics, the strategy becomes obsolete, so you have to learn new strategies, how about you just learn the mechanics first, and when you're ready, you learn the strategies just once, and those are the right strategies, and together with the mechanics, they will take you to masters. That's how you go, just like me, from silver to diamond, and then to master. You jump right on the top, instead of climbing every single stair, because you're gonna get the foundation that can get you all the way to the top. This is the most time efficient thing you can do. Focus on the mechanics first. And here's how to do that specifically. Before I go into how to practice those mechanics specifically, here's the minimum strategy you need to know. Just so you're on board with me, just so you don't worry about strategies when I'm talking about mechanics. Here's the minimum strategy you need until you're in Diamond League and you've got your mechanics nailed, alright? The minimum strategy for Zerg. Make Zerg units! Just make those suckers and attack. Don't bother with build orders, they will change. Just make a 15 pool, 15 hatch, Zerglings and Banelings in the early game, Mutalisks or Infestors in the mid game, and then Broodlords in the late game. Don't bother with other units, because these 6 that I've mentioned. 5? These 5 that I've mentioned. Yeah, I'm really good at math. No shit. Master League Zerg, right there. Zerglings and Banelings, Mutalisk, Infestors, Broodlords. That's 5. What the fuck am I even talking about? Those are the units that require the toughest micro, the most precise, pristine micro. So you will get all the training that you need to get to Masters by using those units. Ignore other units. Ignore roaches. Trust me, you can make them later. And I know they are OP. Just make them later. Focus on the Ling Baneling to learn and master their micromanagement. Focus on the Mutas or the Infestors, and then on the Broodlords in the late game. Ultralisk is way easier to play. Focus on the Broodlord so that you can get that micro practiced, alright? As a Terran, just make the Marines. Like, seriously, just make the Marines. It's not rocket science, people. Just make the Marines. It works for tournament winners. It will work for you. That way you can practice the Marine micro. Don't go for mech, because you will have a wake-up call around Diamond and Master. Like, oh shit, I have to use Marines now? I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna stick to mech, and then you just never learn. And I've seen many Terrans fall into that trap, and they were like permanent diamonds. They were diamonds when I was silver. They played a lot. And then they were diamonds when I was diamond and started beating them to master. And they were still diamonds, because they didn't learn. Because they just stayed on the mech level of things. And mech depends on your opponent being less skilled than you most of the time. Anyway, just like, let's not even start on that. But basically, you want to learn. You want the units that challenge you mechanically. Protoss, get that Blink, get that Colossus to learn the proper positioning of the units. Get those Templars, you will need them. Get those tough units. Get those force fields going too. Get the units that challenge your mechanics. Don't get too caught up in specific strategies. As a Protoss, you may need a little bit more build orders, because Protoss is generally the more timing-oriented race. But make those Protoss games focused on macro. Make at least 2 bases in PvP, 3 bases in PvZ and PvT. And get those macro games going all the time. Your goal is to play the macro games. Terran, same thing. Make Marines, Marauders, Medivacs, but macro games, long games. Max out on those Marines and see how well you can control them. That gives you the most practice. This is all you need to know about strategy, I swear to you. Just do that. Don't worry about the specifics. Don't worry about the timings. You don't need to read about 6-minute Marine attack if you can't execute it in 6 minutes. It's shit anyway. Just focus on the macro games and then get the strategies as your third step later on. But first of all, this is all the strategies you need to focus on the mechanics. Now here's how to focus on mechanics. For each practice session, just get one goal relevant to mechanics. For example, in the next 10 games I play today, I will focus on my #1 goal to spend my money to stay below 1,000 until I get all the way to max. This is my #1 goal. Screw victory. I'm gonna spend that money. You can even make it tougher for yourself and more focused. if you promise yourself to surrender if you float 2000, and then you surrender when you float 2000. Teach your brain. Then if you float, you lose. If you spend money, you win. Just have such really focused, sharp goals like that. And then, because you focus on one goal throughout 5, 10 games, you can iterate between games. Like, here was my problem with spending. I forgot this pylon on 40 something supply. Here was my biggest problem with spending, or I didn't make, I made not enough barracks. Here was my main problem. And in the next game, since you have the same goal, you can iterate on that. You can just do the same things better. Because the iteration cycle is there, because the feedback loop is there between games, you can make a mistake and correct on that immediately afterwards. That's why you need to focus on one specific goal in one play session, so that you can have that feedback loop. Feedback loops teach your brain so much faster than just random playing. This is why some people play 30, 40 games a day, and they don't learn nearly as fast as I did when I played 10 or 20, because I had a shorter feedback loop, because I had focused practice. So have focused practice. Here's goals that you can have and that I recommend. Spend your money, that's your number one goal. Or never get supply blocked, number one goal. Nail every inject / warp in / never queue up units but always keep producing. Number one goal. Have goals like that. And then do your best to micro, or have your goal to macro during combat. Because that is a habit you need to have for Master League. You need to be able to move around that army and still warp in, still produce units, still nail those injects. You need to learn when you can leave your combat to do the inject cycle in a second or two and then come back to the combat. So such goals need to be practiced during focused play sessions until you can nail every single one of them. And I'm serious, until you can nail them. Every single one. Until you can keep your money low and nail all the important timings and macro during combat. All of those goals at the same time. If you can do that, you can move on as a reward. You can move on to step number 3. Well, if you can do that, well, first of all, you're going to be high diamond already. At least you're going to be diamond, because those skills make you have so much shit on the field. Your opponent just crumbles no matter what strategy they use. It's ridiculous. It's the most satisfying feeling. Nailing, like having a build order win makes you feel clever. Nailing your mechanics make you feel like a fucking god of this game. I'm telling you from direct experience. Nailing the mechanics in Starcraft was one of the most satisfying gaming experiences of my life. And even though I never made it because of my hand injury, I will never forget that feeling of just nailing everything. Just operating this gigantic machinery and having so much shit. Your opponent is just scratching his head, thinking, how is that even possible? And that's the feeling you can get in lower leagues with great mechanics. That's why it's so much more fun and satisfying to practice your mechanics first. And then once you nail your mechanics, you can then focus on the strategies. You can then look into the metagame and figure out what's beating your opponents. I mean, yeah, how to beat your opponents. A cool tip I can give you about figuring out the metagame is that if you are losing to something, play it until other people beat you with it. For example, there was a time in ZVZ when I was really struggling against Infestor plays. Just like Roach Infestor was just so weird to me because I was playing all kinds of Muta and I was playing like Roach Hydra and I was confused. And there was this specific timing, you know? I don't remember fully, it was like 3 years ago, but there was this timing that just like got me every time. I just like had barely not enough. Or I had to sacrifice my economy to hold it off and then I just died. So I looked at that specific timing that I was always losing to, and I started doing that timing. Do the thing you are losing to. That's the good way to learn the metagame. Do the thing you are losing to, and see how your opponents beat you. That is a really cool thing if you can do that. Like obviously, if you're losing to a Protoss mothership or something, then and you are a Zerg or a Terran player, you can't really like start playing Protoss because you're bad at Protoss. But you can then ask your friend to play that strategy and show you the replay of how he's losing by using that strategy, or just ask your Protoss players, "Hey, you're doing that mothership bullshit. How are you losing? How are you actually losing?" That is the right question to ask. How is he actually losing using this strategy? Another important tool for learning the metagame is to watch the replay from your opponent's perspective. Watch what he's doing. Look for weak points. Think like, if I was him, would I be scared right now? What would I be scared about? Also notice all the signs and ask yourself, if I scouted now and noticed that, and if I knew now what he was doing, what could I do? Just look for telltale signs of a specific strategy and figure out ways and just adjust your scouting timing so that you can recognize it. If something is popular in the metagame, you need to be able to recognize it. You need to adjust your scouting timings to what is the actual metagame. So maybe you've never been scouting against Terran in the early game. Maybe you never cared. But there's this new timing attack in the metagame that kills you. So you need to now start scouting. Adjust your scout timings depending on the metagame. Figure out what kills what your opponent is doing. Research what the pros are doing. Watch things like the Day 9 Daily. Watch tournaments. You probably know that by now. Most people pay too much attention to strategy too early in their practice cycle, and they don't focus on mechanics. So I don't need to talk much about strategy. You know these things. You know more about strategy than I do because you're playing right now, and I've got injured hands. But the mechanics is the important things. Once you get the mechanics, strategy will be easy. You'll see, it'll be easy to figure out the build orders and the counters and the scouting timings. That's the easy part. The tough part is mechanics, so focus on that. And you will get that super rewarding experience of destroying your friends and getting to masters before them. And them asking you, how the hell did you get that good? We're playing the same amount of games. How the hell did you get that good? Well, you may be playing the same amount of games, but you're going to be playing more practice games, more educative games. So you're going to get ahead, and that's going to be such a cool thing. And one last thing before I go away, because so many people get this wrong. When I say practice your mechanics, don't even look at your actions per minute. Don't even dare look at those actions per minute. I'm getting violent again because it's so stupid what people are doing. It's just so stupid. It's never about APM. It's not about how many actions you perform. It's about how many things you get done. By getting too fixated on your APM, you're telling your brain, I need to click a lot. And that's a bad thing to be saying to your brain. You need to tell your brain, I need to do a lot of things fast. And then, if you tell yourself that you need to do a lot of things rather than click a lot of times, your brain will start looking for strategies to perform something with a smaller amount of clicks. Because you can inject your larvas with 4 clicks, or you can inject your hatcheries with 4 clicks, or you can inject your hatcheries with 3 clicks, or you can inject your hatcheries with 2 clicks. Which one would you prefer? Because 4 clicks increases your APM, yay, and makes you a slower player, because you get less done in the same amount of clicks, and in the same amount of time, you get less done. Because 4 clicks is double the chance of misclicking than 2 clicks, and it's always going to be slower, let's be honest. So focus on the amount of things you get done, not on the APM. It's not important. People with lower APM win matches against higher APM people all the time. Just don't worry about it. Focus on efficiency. on the precision of your clicks rather than clicking a lot. It's nice to warm up your hands in the early game by spamming a little, as long as it doesn't interrupt any of your timings. But don't get too fixated, because I never spammed, I got to mastered. It's fine. So with that, I wish you the best of luck, I wish you the best of fun, and I congratulate you on focusing on your improvement in the most difficult game out there. You have my utmost respect, my friend. Good luck.